Hi everybody, it's MDA here, and today I am starting my project for the Scrap Epic Challenge Lockdown Edition, put out by Kirilee Cosplay and Alana Owlet. Please ignore the background noise for the moment because my sister is currently in the living room watching old Betty Boop cartoons. Most of any background noise is going to be edited out anyway, so... But yeah, I've got all my fabric for Cloud, I have the zippers, I have everything. I've had everything from the last 6 years. So I'm starting off with making his skirt thing. I'm not quite sure what it is, because for clarification, because I did say Cloud Strife, it is his Advent Children version. I have the fabric for his top, I have pants, everything. I even now have foam and warbler and a better understanding of making armor, so I can make that pauldron. And I think my biggest challenges for this project are going to be styling the wig, because I am not that strong at wig styling, but I have noticed myself get better over the last year. So I'm hoping styling his wig won't go too horribly. Yeah, so wig styling and the armor is going to be the most difficult part. So today, it's finally being started, and you know, this is a good opportunity for it with everything being in quarantine and lockdown. So I hope you'll kind of enjoy the making of process of this costume, even though it is, well, I consider it fairly simple.
And now we start the voiceover. Before you ask why there are random seams in my black cotton, it is because this had been bought years ago by the Sears warehouse, and when they closed, I got all of the fabric, and they had made curtains using the broadcloth. But my first job for this was ironing out all of this cotton since I had it in storage for a few years. So I had to get out all of the wrinkles and folds that had accumulated over that period of time. Pro tip: iron your fabric before you cut it out. It'll save you a lot of time in the long run. Since the first thing I was making was the wrap, I just took the fabric and literally wrapped it around myself, using pins to mark out where I was going to cut it later on. After I determined how wide and how long I wanted the wrap to be, I set out to marking proper lines using a yardstick and Tailor's chalk so that I could properly cut along those. Quick note, if you are unfamiliar with Tailor's chalk, it does wash out. Once the lines were drawn out and I was satisfied with what I had, I set to cutting it out. This took a little bit of time due to the fact I was trying not to waste fabric, and I think I managed to do that quite well. So off camera, I had already hemmed one side of the wrap, and this will show you how I did both, and the bottom. So what I did was take the fabric, fold over a small hem allowance, and press it down. And I did this twice so that I would only have to sew one stitch per side, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. The next stage in Cloud was putting together his pants. I just used a simplicity pants pattern that I've had for a number of years, and they are the most reliable pants pattern I own. I had to roll the fabric at a few points given that my table was not optimized for cutting fabric when I was doing this. And I'll be honest, I cut out a lot of the footage of me pinning the fabric. And pinning the pattern, I should say. I take forever for some reason when it comes to pinning patterns, and yet I am so quick to sew the pieces together. Don't ask me how or why, but I just am. And cutting it out at least took a lot less time than actually pinning it did. I think it took maybe like 5 minutes to cut all of the pieces out. Mind you, there were only 2, but, well, I don't understand my friends that say pants are so difficult and I find them to be so easy. Like, can somebody explain this to me?
So I'm going to be honest right here. I found a small problem in the right front of my pants for Cloud, and there is a hole in the fabric. But before filming this part where I am ironing it, I came up with a solution, because on Cloud's right leg he has a strap. He has two straps, one coming here and one further down, and he has what I think in the movie there is a bag there. So I've decided what I'm going to do is cover the hole, which sits about right here. I'm just going to cover it with the strap. This way I am not going to be wasting any fabric, because I'd really rather not have to waste fabric if I can avoid it. So that is my solution for this. So I'm being eco-friendly in this, and then I'm not going to waste fabric even with some issues in it. So the next part, because I've sewn the pieces for the front and the pieces for the back together, I'm going to press them, and I'm actually going to be able to use on my curves. This is something my mom and I made last week. I know it looks ridiculous. This is actually a tailor's ham that my mom and I made. It's using some of the orange fabric that's left over from my Skull Kid cosplay I made in 2015. And I'm not quite sure where I got this green from. It might be left over from Meridia, because I know it's too vibrant for Skull Kid. So we cut two pieces of each color, so there's 4 in total. And my mom and I, over the course of, I want to say, half an hour, possibly more, filled this with sawdust. And let me tell you, it was quite the interesting process to do. And I just hand sewed the hole where we put the sawdust in. So it may not be perfect, but it will hopefully do the trick, and it's about the right size for a tailor's ham. So hopefully this will work quite well. And now I understand why tailor's hams are about $20 to $30 a piece.
And then I set to ironing out the pants and taking full advantage of using that tailor's ham that my mom and I made. The ironing was promptly followed by a literal eternity of pinning the front and backs of the pants together. Oy. And if you've ever wondered what my nationality was before, well, you don't have to anymore. Tim Hortons product placement. Please excuse the mess by my sewing machine. I have terrible organization skills, so please don't come after me for it. I know it's bad.
Noise, because my sister's watching TV. But I have done this off screen, so I have since hemmed the bottom cuffs of my pants for Cloud, and I have put the waistband in. I just used some elastic. This is honestly just the way I normally do waistbands, so it is comfortable for me, it's easy, and this is not something I would enter in a masquerade anyway. The pants are, for the most part, now finished. The only things I still need to do for the pants is make the straps, and that's not going to take me too terribly long, I hope. And considering I've only been working on Cloud for, what time is it? 5 hours. A lot of it is just trying to figure out how the heck this outfit goes together for the wrap to the pants. Um, like a lot of it is just problem solving, really. Like problem solving what I was going to do with the hole that is in the front of my pants. If it was on the side that, gets covered and it was fairly small, that'd be fine. But thankfully, I can just cover this hole with a strap and it'll work. So the next part I'm going to do is the straps. I'm going to get those made for both the pants and the wrap, skirt, whatever you want to call it.
So I filmed the making of the straps off camera, but I spent an eternity pinning them onto the pants. And then I spent an even longer eternity hand sewing. I hate hand sewing. Thankfully, the part of seam ripping the sewn edge that was on the former curtains didn't take as long. I actually had a lot of fun ripping this apart. I barely even used my seam ripper. And even though this is a sped up piece of footage, it didn't take very long at all. This was the second bit of strapping I made, since the first only was enough for doing the pants. This part, however, was for doing from the wrap, over my shoulder, around my back, down the front, and to also do the strap to attach the pauldron. I didn't film any more on Friday due to the fact that, well, I didn't think me sitting there and pulling a super long strap for 2 hours to be the right way. It was going to be very interesting footage, and I didn't feel like sorting through that. But the straps got done, and they were ready to be put on. Too bad it's not at that stage yet where they can go on. And then came day 2, where I started to take my measurements for my chest, waist, and hips while wearing my compression shirt. If you are a cosplayer and you're looking to get into doing crossplay, make sure that you take your measurements when you're wearing a compression shirt, or if you're going the other way, bra. For a good handy guide on how to take your measurements properly regardless, my friend Annie has a good tutorial on how to do this, and I'll link that in the description below. And then I set to making my pattern for the shirt. Forgive me, I cannot provide a tutorial on how to do this because, well, if I tried to explain it, it probably wouldn't make any darn sense whatsoever. After I was satisfied with the pattern that I made for the shirt, I set to cutting it out of the fabric. And I had to be very careful when I was cutting it out on this one because of the ridging. I wanted to try and get the ridges as straight as I possibly could, which proved to be quite the challenge. Trying to line up the straight edge of the pattern against the straight edge of a ridge. Oh boy, I don't ever want to do that again. Once I had the top mostly sewn together, it was time to try it on. And, well, good thing I try things on as I go because I ended up making it way too big, as you can see here. Next was making the collar, which, since I didn't have a long enough strip for making the collar properly, I ended up just kind of winging it. I'll admit to taking a few creative liberties when I was making this, and that's okay. It turned out better than I honestly expected it to anyway. Even though I absolutely hate making collars, they seem to be the bane of my existence. Most people, it's sleeves. Me? Nope. Give me a collar and I will start to cry. I took a bit of creative liberty right here from the normal for making a collar. Most people, when they make a collar, use interfacing. I was vastly kind of out of interfacing, so I improvised and used some of the quilt batting that I had on hand. And I actually gotta admit, it turned out a lot better than I thought it would. It ended up creating a nice thick collar that resembled at least somewhat closely to how it looks in the movie. So I can't really complain. It looks really good, and while I will admit it was really tedious to do, especially since I decided for some godforsaken reason to finish the collar on the inside by hand, which I regret. Yeah. But I'm getting ahead of myself there because before I could finish the collar, I just sewed it into the neckline like I normally would, and then I put the zipper in. Then I finished the collar. And it was after I finished the collar that I was actually able to take in the shirt because I wanted to make sure it was going to close properly and sit properly and, just look how it's supposed to. And then came something that I know I'm not strong at. Making armor. Yay. At least for cutting out the foam, it was something that I was familiar with since I had used the L200 foam before.
So, please ignore the background noise because my sister's currently watching Godzilla King of Monsters. But I have really bad patience issues. So I tried using the E6000. It does not want to hold at all. I know part of the problem is that it doesn't have instant setting and curing ability like Contact's meant. But I'm all out of that, and because this is Scrap Epic 2020 Lockdown Edition, I can't really go buy any, not that I can anyway, with things being closed. So, I'm doing a bit of a hack, and it seems to be working. There is still E6000 on the edges, so it's helping keep them together a little bit more. But I've been hand sewing the foam, and it seems to be working. I'm going to cover this with Worbla anyway, so that will cover this, and that will solidify the finished shape. But it seems to be working, so I'm literally at this point when I started it, I was just trying to get it to join as much as possible. Now that it's fairly close up here, what I'm doing is, here, I'll try and see if I can show you using this. Stab, and then, oops, push through, and then, so that's basically what I'm doing at this point, is just trying to stab through. Like I said, I don't have very good patience when it comes to crafting, but this seems to be working pretty well, and since it's going to be covered with Worbla anyway, I'm not too bothered by it. If I ever dislike it at a later date, I can always remake it. I have more of this. This is L200 Foam that I got from cosplaysupplies.com. I forget how much it is, but I know it's not very expensive, but this is a fantastic foam, and I have used it in quite a few projects now. I still have the same sheet that I paid $30 for at Anime North in 2018. And I guess because I don't make a lot of armor, it's lasting so long for me. And usually what armor I do make is fairly small pieces. So since I can't tie this off, I don't have enough here, I'm just going to cut that like this, and I'm going to start a new one. I put like 8 knots for the part down here, so that is all like 8 knots right there. So I'm going to do the same thing again, just to finish this up, and then I'll use my heat gun to bring this into the proper shape. And then I'll see to cover it with Worbla, because I should have enough Worbla to do all of this. I hope.
So once I had finished unceremoniously sewing my 2 pieces of foam together, I set to heating the foam and shaping it a bit better like I said I would, and that was honestly the easy part. And I'm not going to pretend like I know anything about Worbla since I had only used it a couple of times before, and I'm still really new to it because I don't make a lot of armor, but I'm gonna admit it turned out a bit better than I expected it to. Please excuse my poor fingers touching the super hot Worbla because I currently don't have heat resistant gloves, and the one place I know I can order them from doesn't currently have them in my size. And that's if they would fit me at all.
Okay, so it is now 9:30 at night, and I need to go to bed in about half an hour because I work Sundays. And even though, yes, we are all in quarantine and lockdown and etc., I'm classed as an essential worker, so I still have to go to work. If you don't know, I work in food production, so that kind of, we have to make sure that grocery stores are able to be stocked. So this is where I'm leaving off with Cloud. So this is now done being put together. I have a reinforcement strip along the center seam where I sewed it. Probably not the best or even recommended way to do it, but it worked. So that's done. I know this is extremely rough, but for my 3rd time using Worbla, I'm not going to complain. So at current, Cloud is almost halfway done, which is surprising. The wig is ordered because it is the only thing I didn't have, so possibly tomorrow after work, if I'm not, exhausted, then I will start the process of... Actually, maybe I should wait till I'm off work for a day again, so probably next Friday. And I will model the... Oh, it has to go on this side. Model the wolf that has to go right here. So I'll do that Friday, and I'll see what else I can get done. I also still have to attach the skirt to the pants. Skirt, wrap, whatever you want to call it, that weird piece of fabric that sits off of his pants. I still have that to do. I've attached that to the pants, do the straps, but I want to have this done before I do the straps because I find that's going to be easier for me to do. So, good night.
So I noticed the video was getting quite long, so I decided to make this in at least 2 parts. So this literally just covered the first 2 days of making Cloud, and you will get more progress, including the sculpting and painting of my little wolf for my pauldron, and a bit more work, like maybe styling the wig. So, until then, I hope you enjoy this, and I look forward to sharing with you my finished Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and check me out on other social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.